Body kick by Izzy. That was weird. I don't know the fight actually stopped. What was that stoppage? Oh my god, bro. What was that stoppage? Why they stopped the fight, bro? Oh my god, Izzy just got knocked out, bro.
Oh man, dude. It's finished. It's finished and it's confirmed, right? I beg the question, is he washed up? And it turns out he is. Chinned in the second round by Nasruddin Imavov. Familiar little chinks in his armor that have been exposed yet again. I would like to, and actually, wait, before I move on, I have to specify, like, I'm not racist. Like, when I say chink in his armor, I know he's Chinese, but that's not me trying to throw a slur at him or use a play on words to, call him a slur. I just feel like I have to let you guys know that before I move on, before I am accused of racism. So please, let's move on, and I would like to bring your attention to a little still frame of the shot that Nasruddin Imavov landed on Israel Adesanya, like pretty much bar for bar the shot that Strickland landed in the first round, the right hand that dropped Israel Adesanya. Not exactly the same reason for it. Adesanya against Strickland was trying to fucking land the check left and got chinned for it. And against Nasruddin Imavov, I believe that he was expecting to have to fight off a takedown or fight off the clinch, and then eats a right hand directly on the chin. It was a beautiful shot, beautifully placed. And I think it's time to stop using MMA math to predict fights, because everyone just sees fights in such a one-dimensional fashion that literally, like, I would say majority, if not all, YouTube analysis nowadays is based off MMA math, because this shot wasn't supposed to land, right? The fact that he was chinned by Sean Strickland wasn't supposed to land either, or is hurt multiple times by DDP wasn't supposed to happen because he's a better striker than DDP. But Imavov, who's a sharper striker than somebody like DDP, isn't allowed to land a knockout shot on Izzy, or not able to land a knockout shot. I understand this is all hindsight bias, but just the idea that this was going to be an easy fight for Izzy on the feet because of what happened in the past, as if Imavov hasn't been working on his skills between each fight and hasn't been working his way up the rankings, right, in a legitimate fashion, right? So Imavov is a dangerous guy because of that, man. He's been climbing the ranks. He's not being pushed to a title shot, nothing like that. He's actually paying his dues, and that's what makes a guy like Imavov scary, and he deserved more respect going into this one, and he deserved the victory. I'm glad he got it. But when it comes to the main event, we will get more into that one as we progress through the video. But I'd like to go over each other fight very, very briefly, starting with Hamdi Abdelwahab versus Jamal Pogas. I picked Pogas in this one, and he should have won. 30-27 scorecard for Hamdi Abdelwahab, I believe I heard. What are we doing here? That was clearly a Jamal Pogas fight. If anything, 30-27 for him. Brutal robbery in Saudi Arabia. Hamdi Abdelwahab, put two and two together, it makes sense why this robbery took place. Of course, Hamdi Abdelwahab, okay, I'm going to stop saying his full name because it's a mouthful, but Hamdi is not to blame here. He admitted that it was a robbery, and he is to be respected for that. His reaction after the fight, I felt bad for the dude ultimately. Even though he won, I still felt bad for him because he knew he looked like shit and he knew he didn't earn a win. But, what can he really do, right? Like, he's not going to say no. He's not going to go fucking appeal to the commission and say, hey, I didn't win that fight. He's probably not going to do that. If he did that, though, that'd be fucking wild. But then we get into Bogdan Grad versus Lucas Alexander, and I predicted a second round TKO for Bogdan Grad. Honestly, like, I don't even want to take much credit for that. Even though it was spot on, I didn't expect really much out of this fight. I was just making a prediction, and it just so happened to come true. Jasmine Jasdavicius against Mara Bueno Silva. Mara Bueno Silva sucks. She should be cut. I don't know how she was a contender. That just shows the lack of depth and lack of skill in especially the women's flyweight division. Like, it's so top heavy. There are like two fighters that are worth a fucking damn. Jesus, man. Yeah, I got this one wrong. I'm proud to get that one wrong. Terrence McKinney versus Damir Hadjovic. I think when I checked, Damir Hadjovic was like a heavy favorite. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I was surprised to see it, honestly, because Damir hadn't fought in like 2 years. I know Terrence McKinney is extremely chinny, right? McChinny. But yeah, first round McKinney got it done once again as predicted. I'm happy to get that one right. And I got another one right too. Shamil Gaziev got the first round KO. Nasty right hand down the pipe, man. That was a sharp right hand, right? Stoned him. Stoned Thomas Peterson. Shamil Gaziev's here to stay. Like, he's less of a blob than he used to be, but he's still keeping up with his Shamil the Blob persona. I love that shit. He's a lovable guy. I'm hoping he cuts down even more. Maybe gets shredded, or even bulks up, starts to look like Sergey Pavlovich, and then just dominates the division. I can see it happening, man. Muhammad Naimov versus Khan Ofli. This one was pretty tight, I guess, but it was mostly controlled by Muhammad Naimov. Not a super overly impressive performance from either man. It was a good fight. It was a good technical, clean fight. Well-deserved win for Naimov. And then we get onto the main card, Ziam versus Mike Davis. This was crazy. Like the picture you can see on your screen right now. His knee was bent. Like Ziam's knee was bent in all types of directions that I'm not too sure should be possible without just shredding every fucking ligament in your knee. It made no sense, but it was a well-deserved win for Ziam despite that dicey moment. He mostly dominated Mike Davis and beat him up pretty bad. I picked Mike Davis, and he just didn't look on it. I remember, now in hindsight, I think back on an interview where we talked about how he doesn't even enjoy fighting, really. So that should have been a good enough reason to not pick him in this one. But yeah, great win for Ziam to survive that calf slicer. It was crazy. Then Vinicius Oliveira versus Said Nurmagomedov, and another Nurmagomedov loses. Although he's really fun to watch. He kind of reminds me of like Zabit light. Like he's not as good as Zabit was, but he's similar. Good technique on everything he throws, really good grappler, but just like a Nurmagomedov, these guys have a tendency to gas out. They really do. They expend a lot of energy with their grappling. And then Vinicius Oliveira got it done. He didn't look that great either. Apparently he had an injury. He's pretty sloppy on the feet, man, but he has a lot of power, and he's fun to watch, and I like him. Good personality. He called out Umar Nurmagomedov. That would be a cool fight, I guess. I would probably pick Umar to beat him. But, Oliveira seems like a bit of a wild card, so you never really know. It seems like a decent grappler himself. But then Sergey Pavlovich versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. What a bore fest this was. Fuck this fight. Pavlovich got it done, though. I expected a first-round knockout. Oh, and then to specify, I picked Vinicius Oliveira to beat Said Nurmagomedov, I think by decision. And then we get Chara Bullet versus Michael Venom Page. Now, I thought this fight would be more competitive. That was the only thing that I didn't get right about this fight. It was a victory for Michael Venom Page. I thought it would be a decision. Did not think he would KO Magomedov. And once again, he showed to have a great chin, but he was just frozen, right? He was snake charmed. I know it's corny as shit to say, but that's pretty much what happened when you watch the fight. He was completely frozen, landed nothing of significance. Everything he landed of significance was pretty much leg kicks. Is this a fraud check? I would say getting completely shut down in a similar fashion to the way that Kevin Holland was shut down by MVP. Yeah, I would say it's a fraud check. A 37-year-old MVP, man. I thought MVP was overrated, and I still think his striking isn't the highest caliber in the UFC. It's mostly the footwork, the feinting. It's just the way that he freezes up his opponents. They just don't know what to do. They don't know how to engage because they're afraid they're going to get met with a flying knee or a spinning back elbow or some shit like that. And he actually showed good effectiveness, good variety in his shots. But like I said in my analysis, it's just the right hand. It's only the backhand that possesses any sort of danger against his opponents, although a great performance from MVP. And yeah, at 37 years old, man, he's still doing it in a different weight class too, man. He's very impressive. And then, of course, we already spoke a bit on the main event, but I would like to get a bit more in depth here. Now, this is a bit bittersweet, I'm not going to lie. Izzy has been the main villain on this channel, but, now he's been knocked down a few pegs, and I'm not really the type to want to kick someone when they're down, especially when they've been knocked down multiple times prior. You know what I mean? Like when he was knocked down by Strickland, yeah, it was a fun situation for me. And then because he made it about race going into the DDP fight, I was very happy to see him lose that one, and I gloated and I milked it. Believe me, I milked it just as much as I milked the Umar loss against Merab. Believe me, guys. You thought I milked the Merab one? I recommend going back and watching my old Izzy videos. I milked that one too, and even the O'Malley loss too. Believe me, all my least favorite fighters get it. They get at least a whole series, like a whole Netflix fucking series on their lives, dude. After a loss. But this was truly a washed performance from Izzy. I don't care if he looked good in the first round. There's always some consolation prize taken. It's like, oh wow, Izzy looked really good until he got finished. Okay, but he's getting finished though. He's been finished twice in a row and got completely walked by Strickland. So against Strickland, he didn't look good and he got walked for an entire fight. But against DDP, he looked good until he got choked out. And then against Nasruddin Imavov, he looked good until he got knocked out. The guy's washed. He's finished. Can I see him beating a contender? Maybe. But these are the types of situations where the decline is so rapid that after the last 3 losses, right, you look at the slow progression. He was completely broken mentally going into the Sean Strickland fight, right? All the shit talk about the dog and all that stuff, completely destroyed. Completely destroyed. And then you go into the DDP fight. He makes it about race. He makes it personal. He put the biggest stakes on winning this fight and then loses and crumbles. And against Nasruddin Imavov, he comes in as a contender Izzy. He's, a little bit drawn back a little bit with his personality. He's not being insufferable leading up to it. But just comes in here and looks the worst that he's looked. He looked really good against DDP. He was able to eat the shots to a certain point. This is different now. This to me is just an indication that Izzy's finished. His career will never be the same again. It's unfortunate. I hope he goes the route of I'm trying to think of an example of a legend who retired after a couple of losses, rather than an Anderson Silva type run where he goes on and loses 7-8 fights in a row by knockout, and that would be really unfortunate to see. I don't see Izzy doing that. I feel like he's made enough money in this game to where he doesn't have to do that. But goddamn, dude, like Izzy, I would say, like, as a hater of yours, but also as an admirer at the same time, but an even bigger hater, believe me, just retire. I don't think there's really anything for you to do in the sport anymore. You won't win the title back. You won't go on a title run. I don't believe it. It doesn't seem possible to me anymore. So just retire, right? Just retire. And that's coming from a hater, but as I said, an admirer. You know, as a fighter, I admire the man. I admire what he's done just in combat sports in general, over 100 professional fights. So you have to respect that as a fight fan. But as a person, he's just so off-putting and strange, and I've just never got on with him. But yeah, even in this moment where I would love to laugh at the dude, and like, believe me, I will laugh, but not exactly at Izzy, but I will laugh at somebody else right now. And let's just take a look. And like, but guys, I don't want this to be a thing about fuck Kenny Okoye or anything like that. But I just want to show some of the reaction and send a little message. He's drained. He's defeated. Man, this one, like, honestly speaking, he took this one tougher than he took the DDP one, right? Because at least Izzy showed something. Look at me. Like, he's shielding himself from the replay. Doesn't even want to look at it. He's trying to cover one eye. Look at him. Fuck. He's in the dumps. And like, Kenny does put a lot of stock in these fights too, right? Like when he makes a prediction, look at him. He's creasing. He puts a lot into it. You know, he makes those videos saying, "Oh, come back to this video after this happens," and when it doesn't happen, he knows it, right? But he puts himself out there like that, so I can almost respect it. In fact, I do respect it. I respect it. You know, he puts himself out there. He does. You know, he does it. It's risky. He knows he'll get clowned for it, but it's also just that hubris, right? The hubris comes into play. The man knows that there are repercussions for the way that he talks on the internet, you know, jumping in these calls and talking shit, screaming at people, debating, talking over everybody, being mad disrespectful and vehement in his opinion. So when this type of result happens, I mean, he's already used to it, right? He already experienced it with Strickland, I'm sure. He already experienced it with DDP, I'm sure. And now he's going to experience it again after the Nasty Imavov loss. So, I mean, he's very well acquainted to the post-Izzy loss clowning, I'm sure. But he's going to have to deal with it one more time. I'm sorry. And like, for the sake of Izzy, I really do hope that it's the last time. I really do hope so.
Fucking hell, bro. Oof. Man. It's the sport, dude.
This sport. Yeah, it does crazy things to us, right? It does crazy things to our emotions. But I'm well acquainted to seeing some of my favorite fighters meet this similar fate, right? We saw it with Jose Aldo against Conor McGregor, right? Him getting starched. I know most fans around that time were rooting for Conor McGregor. It sucked seeing Jose Aldo get put out like that. It really did, right? Dan Henderson and his slide getting knocked out multiple times in a row. Right now, just look at Kenny Okoye right here. In turmoil. Inner turmoil.
Well, you can't get too attached to sports, dude. I'm telling you, dude. It's just not worth it.
Now, that is a great point from Kenny. A truly great point from Kenny. And that's also something that I've been saying pretty much like most of my prediction videos, if you know whether things go my way or they don't, I try and echo a similar sentiment that it's best not to get so emotionally attached to certain fighters. I get it, you have familiar affection with Israel Adesanya because he's Nigerian or whatever, right? Same thing with Usman, whatever. But it's best not to get too emotionally attached because this is the fight game. This is the worst sport in the world to get emotionally attached to the result because the ebbs and flows are so extreme. They're so fucking extreme, man. The thrill and the agony, you could say, right? It's so incredibly extreme. And I can tell that Kenny Okoye is probably a fan, maybe since the beginning of the Israel Adesanya / Kamaru Usman like title reigns, maybe around that time. Because if you've been around for longer than that, man, you would have been well acquainted to this type of feeling right here. So I can tell it's a new thing for him, right? And it's tough. It's tough. I get it. It is tough, right? Like I said, man, I went through this with Dan Henderson at the time. I was beat up about it. I really was, seeing him get knocked out over and over, right? Anderson Silva too. Remember the result against Uriah Hall? That shit is enough to bring a tear to my fucking eye. Just watching him on his rise and then seeing him get stepped back, countered by a fucking jab put out by Uriah Hall in similar fashion to how he did to Forrest Griffin. Like, that shit is sad, man. And it happens. It happens to all of our favorite fighters. eventually. It just seems to do, right? Father Time comes for us all. And he's undefeated. Oh, he's charging up. Oh my goodness.
God.
Oh. He's angry.
Ah, man.
Oh.
Like, I swear, bro, you just can't, man.
I'm not sure if I've ever reacted like this to a loss before.
It's not worth it, dude. It's just pointless, dude.
Even my own.
Yeah, you just can't predict anything, dude. Oh, fuck, dude.
Can't predict it.
It was a good shot by Imavov.
That's why betting is pointless, man.
The stoppage wasn't early. I think I might have been mad initially.
I'm just gonna go on a limb and say that Kenny put money on Izzy here.
Bro. It's
I'm
like,
gonna, just a blind guess.
This shit, like, it sucks. Like, it legitimately, like, it actually sucks, bro. I can't explain it, bro. You guys don't, like, no one's gonna get it. Like,
no one's gonna get it.
It's just like,
no. Everyone who's been like a hardcore fan of somebody definitely understands the sinking feeling of watching them get finished, right? We all understand it.
Fuck,
but
dude.
God damn, the reaction, right?
Man.
The personal anguish.
Man.
Like, dude. Come on, look at the
dude. Man, this actually, like,
there has to be money on the line. That's the only way I can even justify. There has to be like some kind of, relative to his particular net worth, like some kind of a significant amount of money had to have been lost for this kind of reaction, because I can't wrap my head around it any other way, really.
What can you do, bro? Like, I don't know.
Goddamn, dude. Goddamn. Well, that does conclude my thoughts on the fight and the overall card. All right, Kenny Okoye, err on the side of caution going forward is all I can say. Take your hubris out of it. Take the ego out of it. Stop looking for the rage bait and all that. Stop, I don't know, stop putting yourself out there in the way that you do it, and you won't have to face such scrutiny. But then again, if you enjoy this, if this is how you like to build engagement, then hey, man, keep it going. Absolutely, right? All power to you, brother. But then when it comes to the fight, dude, I'm sad to see Izzy go out like that in a weird way. Even though I'm a hater of his, like I said, it's just hard for me to kick someone when they're down, like when they're at the lowest. But now we've truly seen Izzy finished. He's done now, absolutely finished. When it comes to Izzy, if he ever wants to fight again, I can't think of another fight for him. When it comes to Imavov, maybe you can justify giving him a title shot after Strickland and DDP, but I think Chimaev's probably next, right? He choked out Whitaker in round 1, although Imavov did chin Izzy in round 2. I would say that the Whitaker win, just based off of context, was more impressive because Whitaker wasn't really on a massive losing streak, like not that Izzy was on a massive losing streak, but he had just been outclassed, finished, and then now finished again. You know what I mean? So like relative to timing and all that, I feel like the Whitaker win puts Chimaev closer to a title shot than Imavov, but I would say Caliber Alio versus Imavov is just the perfect fight to make for the number 1 contender to fight the winner of DDP or Strickland versus Chimaev. So for me, that has to be made. When it comes to Shara, just match him and fucking Bo Nickel up those two frauds and see what happens. And with MVP, I have no clue. If he's going back down to 170, as I said earlier in the video, you have to make the Wonder Boy fight. That's all that makes sense to me. But anyway, guys, I appreciate you watching. As always, I appreciate your thoughts in the comments as well. And I'll see you in the next one.